Dying, loss, bereavement and grief are universal and will affect us all in some way during our lifetime. However, there are additional challenges that may impact on older and old LGBT+ people. This film uses quotes from a range of research to illustrate some of the unique additional complexities that need to be validated and considered when offering end-of-life and bereavement support. Disenfranchised grief is when a person loses something or someone in their life that is important to them, but either their loss is not valued or recognised by others, the way they're grieving is not considered to be a socially acceptable way to process grief, or, as we know has been the case, they are actively excluded from the bedside or even the funeral of their loved one.
They didn't even tell me she was cremated. I wasn't invited. I went to try and find where she was interred and I couldn't find it. But they said I needed to ask the family, which obviously I wasn't going to do.
And
my partner was at the end of life, and professionals involved told his family he was gay, and they had no idea. The next thing I knew was I was excluded from my partner's care planning and from our home.
that experience was in 2023 in Shropshire. For private people who have not disclosed the nature of their relationship, caring, including end-of-life care and bereavement, may necessitate coming out for the carer or surviving partner. This can lead to some complex experiences.
My partner's family didn't know we were a couple even, although I was her main carer. It led to tensions where we had to remember what we should and shouldn't say or how to behave.
And coming out itself can be stressful.
All our lives we've had to come out to people, to come out or drip it in, all that energy, and each one makes my heart race.
Much of this is still relatively new territory, and there is little research related to the experiences of older and old LGBT+ people.
It never even occurred to me that there were older LGBT+ people.
That was a GP in Shropshire in 2018, and while it may sound faintly ridiculous, it's true that in the 21st century, many professionals haven't considered the existence of older LGBT+ people, and if they have, then they have not always thought about any particular issues they may face.
They wouldn't let me in the room, but I found a little corner desk where I could at least see her feet, which wasn't much, so I never got to say goodbye.
That was a lesbian widow. Some people had terrible experiences many years ago, and whilst we may think that things have improved, those experiences sit with them for a very long time, and it can take years to regain trust. This man describes a visit to his GP after the bereavement of his partner.
He simply told me that if I don't feel life's worth living, that's up to me what I do. Which makes you feel you're worth about half a farthing, quite honestly.
And even when there are support groups, these are not always well thought through.
All that was really being talked about was their relationships with their husbands and how that had been affected. I already felt quite excluded, so I never tried to access anything.
And
I remember people saying to me, "You've lost a good friend." And I felt something almost clicking in my head and thinking, I haven't lost a friend. I've lost someone that's been part of my life for 25 years. I thought, a friend? I haven't lost a friend. Yes, I've lost a friend, but I've lost so much more. And I actually remember thinking, you've no idea.
neglecting to consider the sexuality or gender identity of old people suggests that these parts of core human identity are not relevant. For trans and non-binary people, there are a number of barriers to acquiring legal documentation that reflects their gender identity. This can lead to healthcare workers or funeral practitioners misgendering them, or calling them by a name they used before they transitioned. This can be particularly distressing at a time when they are at their most vulnerable. From total invisibility to lack of acknowledgement, undermining LGBT+ lives can make an already distressing time in life unbearable.
There was a memorial service, and I was the only one sitting on one side of the church. I was all alone, and her family were all on the other side. It was like me and them, and I was feeling very embarrassed, actually.
This is one in a larger suite of practical resources produced as part of a project in Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin to embrace a culture of inclusion, where cross-sector service providers working with and for older and old people have made a commitment to embed and sustain inclusive practice.